Hi Todd,
Hi, Edith.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really sorry I'm not there in person. Um,
No worries.
but listen, I want to say thank you first of all because this is your fourth visit to soundtracking, and it's so great because not many people have that repeat with us, and we're so grateful. But it's just testament to how kind of prolific you are with your storytelling. So it's wonderful to have you back. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Oh man, I had a great time with your new film, May December. It just I really like when I go into things trying to avoid noise around it. So you just
Yeah.
try and kind of step in, as blind as you can be really to kind of fully experience it. And I didn't really know what to expect at all. And I laughed a lot. I just thought it was so unique. I feel like I've not seen anything like this, just in terms of the way that you've told the story, and so much of that is through the way that you've used the music as well. But congratulations, first off.
Thank you, Edith. It's so cool. Thank you.
Where did it how did this story kind of come to you, and what was the appeal for you to explore the story and these characters?
It came in the most consummately conceived script
Mm.
that I'd read in a long time, you know, and one of the reasons, Edith, we've been able to see each other more frequently as I've been making movies more frequently. All the films that I began my career with, I wrote and directed and did the research, and I love I love that process. I still love the research and all of the process that still goes into films that I don't write, that I don't initiate.
Mm.
But it meant that there would be like 5, 6, 7 year gaps from film to film, especially with promoting them, which is also an important
Yeah.
part the indie film cycle. But around, I adapted Mildred Pierce from the novel by James M. Cain for HBO in 2000, 2011 with my writing partner John Raymond in Portland. And after that, I was like, wow, that was an amazing, different experience in adapting a novel and staying very true to the novel in ways the original Joan Crawford film did not.
Yeah.
And then there was this script that had been circulating of Carol. It was Price of Salt, Patricia Highsmith's novel, and it was being produced at that point, carried around and trying to get made by one of my dearest and oldest friends, Elizabeth Carlson, who's an English producer.
Yeah.
And Liz said to Christine, do you think Todd would ever consider directing something that he didn't write? And they sent me the project. I read the novel and I read the Phyllis Naj script, and I was like, this is really special. And I'd never really
Mm.
done what I considered at that time a love story before.
Yeah.
So once the little gate is open, the door is cracked open, and a director like myself is interested in reading scripts, I get a lot of stuff sent, or at
Yeah.
least my agent reads and filters a lot of stuff. So this one, so I was looking at a lot of stuff. It was right at the height of COVID. I read the script, but this script cut through the noise
Mm.
like few others I had seen. And I started to talk to Natalie about it. It was Natalie who sent it to me. And we basically assumed she'd be playing that character, Elizabeth, the
Yeah.
younger, the two central lead characters. And I had never worked with Natalie before. We'd discussed it in the past, and this just seemed like the absolute opportune project. And in talking to Natalie about what was so interesting and disquieting about the script, and even her own enthusiasm in eliciting projections people might make onto watching Natalie Portman play an actress and thinking, I wonder if that's how Natalie Portman really is as an
Yeah.
actress. And this is a
That what
disturbing
she does for every
character.
film?
Right. Exactly. And Natalie was like, yeah, I love this. Bring it on. Like she was just bold and fearless. And I was like, she reminds me of somebody who I know very well, who likes to take those kinds of risks and engage in those gray areas in their work. And here
Yeah.
was the second role of a woman hovering around 59, 60 years old, which is rare to begin with, to have those two kinds of female characters at this
Yeah.
film like this. So it was very, very quick for me to go to Julianne Moore and offer that role.
The electricity and the kind of uncomfortableness between moments that they're on screen together is so fantastic to watch. And just almost the energy that you almost kind of feel them pulling towards each other. But I mean, there's films that I can there's very few films I can think of where you have two kind of female leads really who are kind of flawed, both flawed characters who have this kind of you're never really quite sure what the relationship is, where it's going. There's just so much ambiguity about it that's so thrilling and brilliant and draws you in. And there's very few films like that, and I think that that's one of the many reasons that I love this so much. I mean, I thought about Persona was something that I kind of really thought about, just in terms of, because it's really kind of thriller-esque at times, I think,
Yeah,
particularly those scenes in front of mirrors and things. Or it's wonderful. And you must have, I don't know, you and the ladies must have relished those opportunities to kind of have those moments.
absolutely. I mean, the characters, it's also strange how much it's a film about female desire being the driving force and the collateral damage inducing force for both female characters, and the
Yeah.
men yield to the women in their respective stories. You know, that already, I've made many films about female characters and domestic stories and settings. It's very rare, and a bit exotic, I would say, to have a film driven by that kind of willful female desire. So that alone put it in a whole different, and then the sort of competition and the power interplay between the two characters, and moments where you think an intimacy might be forming, or
Yeah.
walls are breaking down between the two of them, but the script keeps shifting gears in these nuanced ways, right? And the actors,
Yeah.
so much to work with, that could also be depicted with great understatement, and then all of a sudden there'd be overstatement. So it's the tonal shifting, of what's said, what isn't said, the silences between things that are said, combined with things that I brought to it, like the music and the
Oh,
framing that is entirely inspired by, as you say, the sort of Bergman simplicity of the extended single shot, and the direct address to the lens in the mirror scenes. All those things, I think, keep the uneasiness and the sense of suspense alive as you watch it.
like when Julianne's doing her makeup, and then when when she's putting her makeup on as well, that's an extraordinary scene. And then when they're in the restaurant toilet, and then
Yeah.
Natalie's monologue as well. It's just all these intimate moments where majority of the time it's the two of them. And then when that moment comes where with Natalie, you're just kind of like, whoa, it's almost kind of Shakespearean in a way, in terms of like a kind of almost like a Greek tragedy in a way, in terms of like how she's almost been like this character that she's researching is almost kind of embodied her, and kind of almost
Yeah.
sort of
This
weirdly take,
catharsis.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I also, that's so interesting. And also this way that even the backstory that we kind of had to kind of concoct for ourselves based on some research we'd done, and really interesting conversations with Julianne Moore, and instincts with her that were absolutely certain about how that original relationship with her and Joe could have began,
yeah,
um, had this sense of it being kind of like this myth of the princess in the castle and the Greco-Roman, knight in shining armor, the virile young man who's going to rescue her, that endows each side with a sense of erotic um, motivation,
Yeah.
but also denies the age and power difference
Yeah.
in that myth. Again, kind of yeah, like a Greek drama,
Yeah.
that they have to, we all have myths about our relationships and our narratives of who we are or were when we met our partner and blah, blah. And this is a particularly deranged one, of course, um but I think the whole movie revealed to me, although this was an exotic case of all these extreme transgressions occurring, I loved how it was also about how we survive by denying our choices
Yeah.
and willfully never looking back and questioning them, even when we're not happy in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, you have that wonderful scene with Julian and Charles, where he's kind of towards the end where he says, who he wants to talk about it, he wants to address it. And
Yeah,
she's kind of like, she's not going there
yeah,
at all. And Charles is brilliant in this as well. But I mean, not an easy character to get really in terms of, but I just thought he absolutely smashed it out the park. Really, I thought it was just a great, yeah, he was the great um final piece to the triangle. I think in a way, he was great.
yeah,
Um, the music, what did you? Because the music is so brilliant, and the way that it kind of stabs in and kind of
yeah.
just. I hope you take. I really mean this as a compliment. So please, I'm saying this ahead of it, but for me, it had those kind of. It had like a kind of, like sort of certain music around TV movies sometimes can come in where it over dramatizes things, or it does a purpose. Did you in any way kind of lean into that in a way to add? Because I just feel it had that kind of it's in a good way. I'm not kind of trying to
No, no.
diminish it, but
Look,
yeah, talk
I'm
to me about the music.
yeah. I wasn't thinking of TV movies or particularly in stylistic terms, making it, because I saw the film where that music, what that where that score was, what that score was written for, the go between,
Yeah.
just last year. I think I saw it when I was a kid.
Whoa.
It came out in 1971. It might be more better known in the UK as an English film, but in America it is not. It's just fallen out of circulation.
It's a Julie
So
Christie film, yeah?
yeah, Alan
Yeah, yeah,
Bates,
yeah.
Christie, Joseph Losey directed. Harold Pinter wrote the script. I mean, it's a shocking film to not be better known. It was nominated for Best Picture. It won the Palme d'Or in Cannes. It was like a highly respected movie at the
Mm.
time. I remember the graphics in the newspaper for the ads. But I saw it on Turner Classic Movies last year, and it's an amazing film.
Mm.
But the music knocked my socks off. I was completely astonished by it. It's not like any score of a Losey film, any score I've heard Michel Legrand write.
Yeah.
It breaks every rule of what sophisticated soundtracks are supposed to.
Yeah.
It, as you say, it slaps you, or it not, however you said it like slaps you silly right from the beginning of the film, and it puts you in a state of going, what is coming? Where
Yeah.
you're anticipating everything, right?
Yeah.
Head of the movie. And I love that. That was
Yeah.
just so exciting and juicy and strange, and excessive. So that's where it all came from. But of course, yes, it does sort of have a conversation with the tabloid past that is the backstory of this movie, where you see
Mm.
a snippet of the TV movie and you're watching the casting of these way too young boys for the movie they're going to make, and the whole the whole reevaluation and
Yeah.
almost repetition of this story is getting played out while this music keeps banging away at you. But so I found this music. I said to we had a very short schedule. We shot the movie in Savannah in 23 days, incredibly short.
What?
So every second counted. It meant that the communication between all my creative partners and my actors had to be I just decided open the doors, share everything, bring everybody into the process. So I usually share my image book, but I was now sharing it with this music, saying, play the Michel Legrand score while you look at the images. And then I just, on the plane to Savannah, I placed all the cues of that entire score through our script.
Wow.
As soon as we started to shoot the film, we played the music scene by scene by scene. When there was dialogue, we turned the music down so they could do their dialogue, turn it back up. So everybody was living and breathing this tone, this framing together. And it also just brought us more closely together. The film ended up being one of the most joyous filmmaking experiences I've ever had. And I truly thought, this is so much fun. The movie is going to suck. Because there's no way we could have this much fun. Right? Because, we're all too, whatever, Protestant.
Should it be this much fun?
Yeah. We have to suffer for our art, whatever. But I thought, I don't care. I would not trade this experience for the world. It was so stimulating for everybody involved. When it ended, we were all like, at the wrap party, it was like, I just don't want it to be over. I want it to keep going, So the whole thing was a really excellent collaborative journey.
So with that music, then, was it an easy, in terms of, because you worked with Marcello Zarvos to kind of, what was the, so, you decide that, and this is
very
such
good question. No,
because it's, go on, sorry.
No. We're asking the same question. I mean, because Marcello Zarvos is one of the great composers. I loved working with him on Dark Waters when I last worked with him. He's an amazing composer. As soon as I found the score, I sent it in pre-production. I was like, Marcello, this is what we have to do. And he was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, it blew his mind. He was like, oh my God, this breaks every rule of what I've ever done in a movie. And I was hoping he would just send us little, sketches while we were shooting, and we could just play those. But the DNA of the film just got fused to that score, or at least that melodic signature, so much. Marcello added and wrote original music to fill it out, the tonal elements, and then he ultimately rearranged the Legrand composition, and we re-recorded it with the Prague Symphony Orchestra. Couldn't afford the London Symphony Orchestra masters, and I wouldn't have wanted that. Like, Marcello made it so much ours, absolutely written for and measured for this film. So, but that was that was a process for sure.
But I guess it's not a totally unique thing where there's something existing that's used in a, musically in a film sort of thing. But for an existing score for a film where the subject matter of the original film has got a connection to the story in your film, it's such a brilliant, we talk about kind of in the world, it's all about kind of, I don't know, finding inspiration from such unique and brilliant ways and retelling stories, but also really drawing people's attention to things that they might have not missed. I have a big problem where people kind of go, if you say you haven't seen a film or listened to an album and they kind of roll their eyes at you, it's like, it shouldn't matter when you come to things.
Exactly.
So long as you come to it at some point and are moved by it or have some connection to it, it doesn't matter. And I think it's a wonderful thing that this piece of score really inspired you and connected with your film, that it may now encourage people to go back and watch that film. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
I'm always jealous of people who are like, I never saw Nashville. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, you're so lucky. Or, it's like when one of my dearest friends, one of the most brilliant women I know in my life, I went to high school with, she went to college when I did, had a kind of emotional meltdown that first semester of college because it's a tough transition. She dropped out. she started to get jobs and work her whole life, right? And move up and made money and found a partner and all this. And then at age 40, her partner was in a position to say, Camden, you can go back to school now. So when she was in her
Awesome.
40s, she went to the new school in New York. And I was like, damn,
Yeah.
could you imagine going to college, going to undergrad at like the new school in New York City in your 40s when you have learned so much about the world and you're ready to I was just, and she did. She had the most extraordinary. I mean, I knew when I was in college that it was special, and I
Yeah.
stretched it out. I knew that much. That much I knew at the time when I was young. But what she had was like, it's just an example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It's kind of, I almost feel like yeah, like I've got a 15-year-old kid and he's, going through exams and things and thinking about going to uni and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, can I come with you?
Exactly. I
I
know.
really, I want to feed my brain. There's
I
so
know.
much that I want to like. It's kind of, yeah, we should be. Yeah, I think given the opportunity, it's like go out and work and then come back and do uni
Yeah.
sort of thing. A few years
Exactly.
later, it'd be such a great thing.
Yeah.
There's a moment as well, just another before we run out of time that I wanted to that really kind of was like made me sort of like, oh, amazing. Was that moment post graduation where the two characters have the little chat and Julianne reveals something to Natalie's character about a conversation that's been had, and you're like, oh my god, such a great moment, and you can see Natalie almost, you can see she's broken by it almost in a way, and she's kind of like you can almost see her sort of fall down with the kind of realization that she's been kind of slightly hoodwinked in a
Yeah.
way. And I loved that moment so much. And I particularly just loved the way that Julianne delivered it, but also Natalie's response to it in a physical way as well as a kind of emotional way. I thought it was an amazing moment in the film.
Yeah. No, I know with that, and I know you're being careful to not give too much
Yeah,
away. It's
spoiling.
hard to
Yeah,
talk about it in detail, but I think in general, something that moment reveals is a theme throughout the film where, and it was something that really interested me in the script from the beginning, was that even though this is this crazy, exotic, extreme case that happened 20 years ago, the movie is so much about how we all refuse to revisit the choices that we make in life
yeah,
and can't really look at ourselves or question ourselves. And here comes this actress who's going to like knock down the walls and find the truth and
yeah,
penetrate all the repression and all the blockades. And you sort of think, and she also comes with this privilege for being an actor and coming from the
mm,
West Coast and all this stuff. You presume that she has all the power and all the agency and that the truth is the power or something,
mm,
even if we're questioning what that truth really is. Until that moment you're talking about, or those examples that you're talking about, where you realize it's the person who puts up the wall who is the powerful one.
mm.
And that's a very disturbing thing to think about, that repression and denial are more powerful than truth seeking.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's one of the ways the battle of wills is getting played out in this film between these two women.
I also felt like the film threw up so many questions as well, which I love kind of coming out of a film and wanting to sit down for like 2 hours and just go, but what are that kind of, it's so lovely when you're inspired to converse coming out of a film. And this film definitely did that. And whether that's about characters or the kids, how do the kids feel, what are
Yeah.
they going through, what's their response, or kind of how does she feel about that decision that they made, how does he feel about that decision they made and stuff. And it was just joyous to kind of feel that way. And I don't know if that's a thing that you go into a film when you start making it, in terms of wanting people to ask questions at the end of your film.
You couldn't have sort of posed the question more uh, cogently to how I felt when I read that script, which made me want to make the film, which was that
Awesome.
this was like what cinema, this is what cinema is to me. It's taking you somewhere where you don't understand where you're going. You haven't gone there before. You're not prepared entirely for the experience. It's beyond your control or your preset ideas about this or that, which we love to hold up today as a
Mm.
sort of test for how the world is going to like satisfy what we already think. And this movie just disturbs all of that. And to me, that's what I loved about movies. And those were the films that I, when I was coming of age in the 60s and 70s and seeing movies, every movie was like that. Really, any movie you can think of from the classic era of Hollywood on is a movie that makes you think about it,
Yeah.
makes you want to talk about it, and
Yeah.
makes you want to see it again, you know? And sometimes you don't even have words for the questions that you have about it, but you still want to see it again. It just
Yeah.
turns you in all these different ways. And this movie just did that at a time that I just wasn't sure the climate of audiences and, you know, was necessarily gonna dig that. And what's been great so far, at least, is that that has been a pleasure for people
Yeah.
watching the movie, not an obstacle.
Todd, such a pleasure getting to chat to you again. Really, really is. Congratulations on the film, and I look forward to the
Thank you.
next chapter as
So
well. You
great to
take
talk to
care.
you.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Bye.